Hi, I'm Mike Stanzik and this is Digital Electronics Classroom. In this video we're going to look at an introduction to sequential circuits. So up to this point we've been doing combinational circuits, which are defined by their inputs and outputs. And the outputs change immediately with the inputs when the inputs are applied. Now in sequential circuits, a big addition is memory elements. These memory elements contain a state of the circuit, and that state feeds back into the combinational logic. And so this creates a situation where the output is determined by not only the inputs, but also the memory or the state of the circuit itself. There's also a time element to this. So we're going to look at synchronous or same time circuits. And so there's a clock, and a clock will establish when the circuit can change. So when it can change its internal state and when the outputs will change. Okay, let's get started. So what we have here is a sequential circuit. And I want to look at the block diagram right here. So as I was saying, we have inputs, and those inputs are fed into outputs, and that was our original combinational circuit. And this changed at immediately. But now we have this internal memory, and so these memory elements will hold a state or a set of variables that we are storing that will affect the output. It'll feed back into some combinational circuitry, and with the inclusion of the inputs and the state, that will affect the output. And so we could, if we wanted to here, kind of isolate this part of the circuit. This is the internal state, and it's feeding back into the combinational circuit. Okay. So outside of the blue was our combinational circuit. Now with the addition of the blue, we have a sequential circuit. There's one more piece that we talked about, is that it changes synchronously in a synchronous sequential circuit. And so for these memory elements, we have an input called a clock. And that clock is typically a square wave digital signal, and that'll tell us when we can change our state. Okay, so that's what we're looking at for those there. So I just want to go through a little bit of some definitions and introduce us to the basics of this the sequential circuit. As we said, it's defined by its inputs, outputs, and state. Okay, sorry, kind of dragged it along there. Inputs, the outputs, and the state of the circuit. Okay, and they have memory. And they are clocked for synchronous. Well, I guess they're clocked either way. Okay, so let's just talk about synchronous. So we have same time. And so this is where the clock signal ensures that the memory elements all change at the same time. And we also have that the state and the output are determined at specific, because of this, specific points in time. Okay? So that's how we define a synchronous situation. So let's take a look at asynchronous. Not same time. And so state and output changes as soon as the inputs change. Okay, so they can change at any time, as opposed to a specific time. This makes them more difficult to design. So one more thing I wanted to add is the storage elements that we're going to look at. The memory for us are going to be flip-flops, and we'll look at those in future videos. Okay, I think that's about it that I want to talk about right now. I'm Mike Stanczyk. This is Digital Electronics Classroom. I appreciate you joining us today. Remember to like and subscribe, and have a wonderful day. Thank you.